Hello, and welcome to the world of no internet. Indeed. Early this morning. Andrew tells me at about 4:43, the internet, at least the ROGERS network in Canada, stopped working. And of course, what do we rely on that for? Well, telephone, Wi-Fi, internet, television, YouTube, everything you can imagine. The basics of our being able to find out what was going on in the world came down to, I took my old Commodore, which is not the same as the Commodore, but it says Commodore, radio out, and hooked it up, plugged it in, pulled out the antenna and turned it on. Right? So we could listen to the local news station, which would tell us that the internet, pretty much on the ROGERS network, across the country, was dead. So, yeah, we were pretty much reduced to this radio as our form of getting the word out, or getting the word in. Which meant, of course, that we couldn't really communicate with anybody about anything. And, of course, had we had an emergency, we would not have been able to reach 911 unless, of course, we found somebody who, I'm just going to unplug this because this radio has a buzz to it. If we had found somebody with a phone on one of the other networks in the country, of which there are not many, we could have summoned an ambulance, but of course it does seem that some, they said on the radio anyway, some 911 services were in trouble because they too relied on the ROGERS network. Anyway, so this radio came in very handy. In case you forget, I got this a while ago thinking it was actually made by Commodore, but it's not made by Commodore, it's another Commodore. And it really didn't work well. Although it did work, it's just the volume was squirrely. So I got some advice from Rudy of Rudy's Retro Intel to get this certain stuff that I took off the front dials and sprayed it in there and then worked it. And now the volume control is quite dandy. Anyway, it was a good thing to have around today. We did go out earlier and we saw this horde of people outside of a McDonald's. We're like, why aren't they letting them in? What's going on? Well, the McDonald's was full, and the people outside were also trying to tap into their Wi-Fi. And the parking lot was full, and we weren't out for too long. We didn't go too many places, but it did seem that Tim Hortons, McDonald's, and other such places that have free Wi-Fi, and it seemed to be working. Oh, hello, Penny. They had crowds and crowds of people, so they probably did very well today. Mind you, some of them couldn't do debit or other such internet-based transactions. They had to use cash. Cash, can you imagine? Hello, Penny. Can you imagine cash? It's funny, I'm going to do a video on a Blue Jay game we went to, because there were a lot of good things about it, and there were some bad things about it. One of the bad things was that even though everything was fine and dandy and working, hello, Penny, and it should have been, they don't take cash. And the only way you can actually do your tickets, hello, Penny, is on a phone. They don't print tickets anymore. Hello, Penny. And I can see, okay, yeah, this is convenient. Because, of course, like, you can basically email your tickets. If you sell them, you can email them and stuff. But there should still be some consideration for those people who don't have smartphones and who don't use the internet, or not internet, interact, and just like to use cash. There should be. Like, I went to the post office the other day to mail something, and the lady says, "Oh, have you been on the app to, fill?" I said, "No, I don't have a phone. I don't have a way to access the internet. What do you do with somebody like me?" "Oh, well, we can enter it all in." But, we couldn't do that for everybody. But they used to do it for everybody. So, and here it is on a day like this. If you had some package that really had to get somewhere, what are you going to do? They probably can't do anything either. So, yes, indeed, we have certainly become very reliant on the internet. A dependency. I'm thinking that in the future, the big companies should have a way amongst themselves, and a deal, that if somebody's network goes down, there should be an option for people for the day, or however long things are affected, to press a button and go to somebody else's network. And of course, in this case, ROGERS, say they went and talked to Bell and said, "Yo, Bell, we want to use your network today because we're down, down. That then ROGERS could use their billions and trillions of dollars to cover the cost of that, to keep us all up and running. And of course, for people who have got rid of their home phones, which were primarily with Bell, they would have been fine. And of course, actually today in Canada, it seemed there was some short outage with Bell, but other things like TELUS, and I don't remember all the names of the other little companies, but there aren't that many, because it's really like ROGERS and Bell, but it's not a monopoly. No, not a monopoly. So, yeah, this kind of thing shows that there needs to be something, some sort of backup, some sort of sharing, or something. Reminds me of years and years ago now, maybe 20 years ago, I don't remember, there was a huge blackout in Ontario and a lot of other places. It was massive. There were gas stations that, of course, had no power, and they couldn't pump their gas out. And I would like to think that since that happened many years ago, because this all added to the joy of no electricity, no banking, but people with cash couldn't even buy gas. They were stuck. Hopefully gas stations have some sort of backup plan now. I'd like to think, whether it's a generator or some other something, like a big battery system. But I think it'd probably have to be a generator. Certainly if I had a gas station, or any other sort of significant business that required power, I would be ready for such an emergency, as you need to be ready for all eventualities. And it's very rare that these massive, horrible things happen, but when they do, they do. Things happen. It does. Anyway, so here is my handy-dandy Commodore, but not Commodore radio, and it really did save the day today, although I wish that by now we had the internet back, because then I could upload this video. But I can't do that. I cannot. But I suppose I can tinker on some things, because I've been searching around, and once again, trying to get organized. And I'll tell you, there's a thing I'm doing soon. I am tidying up a room that I filmed in before, not the pool room, but the other room where I had this nice clean desk I could work on things, and of course the nice clean desk got full of stuff. Anyway, it is time to gather all the old Commodore PET computers into one place. And if nothing else, I want to do like a family picture of me and them, surrounded. And there are many of them. There's even, I think there's one under this desk, maybe another one around here. But anyway, then there's some out in the hall. Yeah, there's one in the basement. I think there's one buried in the garage. I don't know how I'm going to get that. But then there's others under the pool table. and maybe even on the pool table, and here and there. Anyway, because as I keep saying, it is time, or it's getting to be time, when I should assess things and sort things and do whatever, and perhaps even sell some things. Can you imagine? But anyway, I would like to gather them all together and do this picture. Also, like 40 years ago or so, maybe not quite 40 years ago, I helped on a movie called Hide and Seek by the CBC. And it's on the internet. And it was based on a book about this thing called, maybe it was called The Apprenticeship of P1 or something. But anyway, it happened that they were filming it at the high school that I went to. And I was sitting in the computer lab when in came these people. And I remember the one fellow, who I think he was the director, had a very thick, heavy French accent. And they were looking around and ended up, I don't think they liked that room. But they did talk to the teacher about, like, we got this stuff we need done. And apparently they'd hired some fellow from the University of Waterloo who I'm sure was brilliant in his own way, but he knew nothing about programming in BASIC and the Commodore machines or anything. So he'd had the script for many months and really done nothing. Nothing of significance. So anyway, the teacher sent him over to me and I said, let me look at that. And within a few minutes I'd written something that it wasn't certainly anywhere near the final version, but it was something. Then I said, well, what about kind of like, oh, that's it, you're hired. So anyway, I spent many a day. Probably, I mean, they paid well, but probably I should have said, no, I'd like an hourly rate. And my brother was actually an extra in this production, although he didn't pick a very good place to sit, so I think he's only seen once. But anyway, somebody, and I got to look it up when I get the internet back to do kind of my recollections of this production, which I will do, but I would like to do it in the room surrounded by the pets, because the pets were primarily, not totally, but primarily the machines used in this movie. They also used Commodore 64s, but mostly it was the pets. And anyway, I'll have a bunch more to say about that once I get this set up. So I am working on getting this room figured, and then we'll see what's working and what's not, and see what's what. We shall. What else? So tidying up down there, I have of course found more things. I've got lots of things to go through. There's no end of things. And of course I found machines with no notes on them, which I got to look at and sort out, which maybe I will do some of that, because of course I can't do anything on the internet today. I can't even upload this video. I can copy it off onto a computer. I can tinker with it, but I can't upload it, at least not yet. And it's a funny thing. Oh, hello, Penny. You know how I figure out if the internet is working again is if I walk by the bedroom and I say, Alexa, and if she says what she has been saying all day about having trouble connected to the internet, I know the internet is still down. And if I'm downstairs and I say, hey Google, it says much the same kind of thing. Hi, Penny. Hello. So I know that the internet is still toast. And there hasn't been a whole lot of updates from the ROGERS people about what's going on. My mind is not terribly suspicious, but I wonder, could it be a cyber attack? Because really, as I was telling Andrew, in the old days of warfare, people would go for the TV and the radio stations, either blow them up or get control of them. And now, of course, what's Russia up to these days when it comes to controlling the message, and that is not letting people have free access to the internet, and even when they have access to their news people or other people, there are things that they just can't say. There are words they can't use, like invasion, or any such things like that. Anyway, so yes, when you control the internet these days, you can really shut down a country, which of course today has happened. But of course the people who don't use ROGERS can still do what they do. or as I said, I think there was slight disruptions on other things, but mostly they can do what they can do. But for the rest of us, we are left to record and to talk to our cats. Hello, Penny. Penny? Penny? She's not paying attention to me. Or as Sheldon would say, Penny, 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 knock, 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 Penny, knock, 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 Penny, knock, knock, knock. Oh, now she's looking at me. Hello, Penny. By the way, Penny's our cat. But she's not going to come up and say hello today, it seems. Anyway, so, radio, internet, the former Japanese prime minister, was assassinated in a country with no guns. And what did the person do? They made some homemade gun, and they killed him. Unbelievable. But don't get me started on guns, because of course, as you know, guns don't kill people. People kill people. Yeah. That's right. Anyway, enough for now. I remember downstairs I did find a Vic-20 in a box, and there was no notes and no anything, so maybe I'll bring that up here and see what I can see what I can do, see what's what. I do seem to remember I was tinkering on this 1541, and I think it is now happy, but we'll see. Anyway, I've been off the air for a bit. It's been a challenging and interesting time, and today even more so. But it's funny how the loss of technology has returned me to this room, so I can talk about technology of the old times. And you know, I used to write for Run magazine, and I did say on a number of occasions, you know, computers are fine, but once you hook up a modem, you've got the world. And that, of course, evolved into the internet eventually. And today, I don't have the world. I can't watch the news. I can listen to the radio and get the news. You know, the Blue Jays will play and probably lose again tonight. And we can't watch it. And I try not to, or I've tried forever not to get hooked on any games, but I've been playing Call of Duty and learning it and getting a little better. I'm not an elite player, and I do not have the best guns, and certainly if I'm up against elite players, I perish quickly. Oh well. Right, Penny? Right, Penny. Right. Thank you, Commodore Radio. Not from Commodore. And we'll see what happens over the next hours with our internet service. So, thanks for coming. Stay tuned. I'll see about getting back in the game and sorting out the room full of pets. And of course, one thing I do want to do at some point, and I know he's a busy man, but I do want to get a hold of Carl Hilden from the Transactor, and I want to try and do my best to recreate one of the covers of the Transactor, which will never be exactly as it was, but certainly he had, and I'd have to count up a desk or and such with disk drives galore, and I think it was mostly disk drives, but I'd have to look and see for sure. It's a shot of him sitting at this thing with disk drives stacked on top of disk drives, I think down to the floor. I think I'd have to look at it again, with of course the back of him, which it's him. Anyway, I would like to, before I start to get rid of all things, to see if I can recreate that picture with him. And if I can't do it with him, I can do it with me, but I'd rather do it with him. Some, maybe not quite 40 years later, maybe 35. Anyway, for now, that's enough. So if you're in Canada, I hope you had an okay day, and I wonder if Rogers is going to find a whole lot of people heading over to Bell and Telus and other such places. And, you know, what up? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to go feed Penny. Oh, she perked up at that. And maybe I'll copy this and some other files off of this iPad because it's getting full. And maybe when I come back upstairs, I'll bring my other phone and I'll set this up on, it's kind of a music stand I use. Maybe I'll set it up on here with that and film with that, because I haven't done that before with this phone. I think it shoots in a higher resolution, so maybe I'll give that a try. Anyway, thanks for coming. Stay tuned. Many, 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 many more videos to come. I don't have enough subscribers and I don't have enough time watched to actually earn a dime off of all the YouTube stuff that I have done, even though I have more than 1,100 videos to do, mostly with Commodore things and other things. But, you know, I do appreciate the comments, the messages, and that you watch, and hopefully you find what I have to say interesting, intriguing, thought-provoking. Perhaps. Alright, Penny. Time to eat. Until we meet again, keep your stick on the ice. Bye for now.